Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RCL. And I also
Sorry.
forgot. No, I forgot. Now you can hear my co-commentator for today, Tim Ireland, as well. Hello, Tim.
Hello. Sorry, I interrupted.
Well,
Terribly unprofessional of me.
luckily nobody out there in the world heard it because I forgot to turn on your visibility or your audibility in the stream. However, today we are back to start off the second half of the RCL Season 6 here in Fuji. Track that might divide people a bit in terms of their skill level. And I think it will be very, very interesting because we have a couple of drivers back who we haven't seen in quite some time. We have probably two of the fastest drivers we could ask for in this race. We shall see about that. One of them you are very familiar with. The other you may have seen in online competition, but not so far in anything live streamed, to what I know. But yeah, overall it will be very interesting. We are here in qualifying right now, and coming from a very action-packed first half of the season, what do you think Fuji will bring to us today here on a very hot summer day?
Fuji's an interesting one, I think, with us. It's not been a very predictable experience, I don't think, from races we've had in the past. And yeah, we've got some interesting people turning up today. So they might be mixing things up at the front compared to perhaps what we normally do during races. So I'm really looking forward to this one and seeing what happens. I've got to be honest.
Well, one of these drivers is most certainly Maximilian Dehn. I think most people who will watch the stream know this name. One of the all-out fastest drivers in RENNSPORT at the moment. You can encounter in community races and stuff. Has won multiple races, has won championships, and is back here today. His first entry into this season of RCL. Just going in for some fun. And I think it has a certain reason that he does join, and this is David Subaru. Because if you take a look at his RENNSPORT profile, you will notice he's having the Atlassian Williams team tag. And he certainly is a very fast driver.
Not rocking the Atlassian Williams livery today. Instead, he's gone for the Purple Beast one. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of pace he's going to be making. Now, I don't think he's one of the regular R1 drivers, is he? He has been lurking around on the Discord a bit recently, and he's been taking part in some races. And he is the second highest ranked person in this race behind Maximilian Dehn.
Platinum 4,816. That is pretty high. That's not far away from Grandmaster as well, which so far only Maximilian Dehn has achieved since our early access start. And yeah, we have the first laps in. Currently, Kimi Halpler in the lead, though, by 5/10 over Maximilian Dehn. Then Julian Chico, Enrico Bruiniger in the Aston Martin, and Dominic Ladler.
I think we have all manufacturers represented today, which is great for us. We always like an all manufacturers race.
Yeah, one thing you might notice is the absence of a certain Mercedes in the hands of Alizai. Unfortunately, couldn't make it for today. We'll be back at some point for sure, but I think we have another highly competitive Mercedes here with David Subaru. 18 thousandths of a second faster in Sector 1. Now neatly through Dunlop. And another 1.5 tenths faster in Sector 2.
Big slide there. But you seem to hold it.
Very tricky corner. Next corner, you basically lose all traction on the rear, especially with the front engine covered. It's tricky in all the cars, don't be mistaken by that. but gets it neatly out of Panasonic. And this very long front straight. We will probably see a lot of slipstreaming here today, just like in Daytona. Comes across the line and takes pole position. Ronin Hood slots in 4th. Of course, our championship leader. Which we might actually just quickly take a look at. Because with these drivers in there here today, this could prove to be very, very interesting after half-season waypoint. Ronin Hood, 21 points over Dominic Ladler. Tony Thomas still in 3rd with his consistent scores also here today again. So, yeah, could really change a lot. We have 23 drivers. Points payout is not small for that.
No, it's one of the, well, pretty much the highest you can get. We can go to 24, but 23 is the next best thing. So whoever wins today is going to get a decent points haul from that.
So 21 points is a good cushion, but it could also go away pretty quickly. And if we learned anything this season, that is that there are a lot of dark horses for each race to score big if others do mistakes. And it's Dominic Ladler who will try to capitalize on it to get closer to the championship lead again. I mean, one name very present of that is currently in 8th, Sven Gehlhut, who won that race at Monza, the 2nd race. But with a few more minutes in qualifying left, we will probably see drivers put in their last attempts. David Sobero, though, he's calling it a day for qualifying. Maximilian Dehn just took 2nd from Kimi Hapler, who's also on a good lap here, though. Bit down in the 1st sector, but not by much. Let's see what the Swede can do. Oh, gets very much out of shape. That's what I've been talking about in its corner.
It's a very tricky corner to do, especially, I imagine, in a rear-wheel drive car. In a rear-engine car. Because as you're getting to kind of the apex, you're coming over a crest of a small hill. There's like a little lip. It's a bit of a blind apex, and you need to be getting on the power quickly, but it does then just, the gradient changes and the weight of the car swaps around.
You know, Ronin Hood just jumped Kimi Hapler by just a bit to get on, into 3rd place in qualifying. The squads are also going into the pits. Enrico Bräuniger in 7th. Looks to be a bit closer to the front pack compared to last time out. So hopefully this time with lesser issues at the start of the race, so he can make use of that position. He could really use the points, currently not looking too good in the overall standings, unfortunately. But yeah, qualifying is pretty much over. And with the race not far away, I think we are in for something very interesting here today. Something quite different. And Maximilian Dehn having some competition is also something we haven't seen too often.
No, it's not a regular occurrence for us here, so it'd be great to see him getting pushed and challenged a little bit. Everyone on the grid seems to have fairly decent times, so we should be in for some great mid-pack racing as well.
Well, let's take a look. Here we see from up and above the starting procedure. 1 AMG, 3 Porsches on the 2 front rows. Red lights are out, and we go racing in Fuji. It's been a good getaway for Maximilian Dehn, who's immediately getting onto the inside of Subaru as they go side by side into turn 1. Ronan Hood having a look. Oh, and Subaru going very wide. Maximilian Dehn also being forced. Oh, and contact with Ronan Hood, both spinning out. Where's Dominik Ladanov? I haven't seen him exiting turn 1, so maybe he got caught off it as well. We see him in the background there in the grass. Subaru in the lead by solid half a second after a very chaotic start, and Julian Chicot jumped up into second.
Yeah, there was a bit of a problem with one of the Porsches on the inside coming into turn 1, braking on the grass, and it caused, it was chest human error, I think, causing a bit of carnage coming into turn 1.
That was Daibe trying his best to get past Radoslav Bjornkovic, who's giving a bit of a flash to the McDev. Very different lines. Dennis Kurzan, the Audi in front of them. You see what I see in the top 5 though.
I do see what you see in the top 5. That is 5 different manufacturers in the top 5 positions right now.
Our number 3 in the standings, Tony Thomas, right there in the action, in the midfield, P11 currently for him. But we've seen that from him before. He used that usually to move up over time. Dennis Kurzer under pressure from the 2 Iron Dames Porsches. Dominik Ladler currently in P13, just at the back of the train, but most crucially, still in front of Ruan Den Hood. Nearly 3 right into turn 1. Oh, and that was the number 13 Iron Dames Porsche going very wide. Dennis Kurzer doing the up and down. There's a bit of contact between the two of them, but it goes pretty well for them. And Tony Thomas also moving up a position and immediately having a look on the back of Radoslav Pironkovic for P9.
And Maximilian Dehn in the pits right now.
Not really a good start for him there.
Nope.
And the 2 Iron Dames Porsche swap positions. Not that they are teammates, but well, they're certainly fighting hard for it. Dennis Kurzer just in front of them, holding them off. Another dive bomb. Oh, in contact. I think that was McDev who caused big issues there. Trying to get the car turned around. David Subaru though up front, a 2.5 second lead over Kimi Harpala. That's taking back second place. And Enrico Boninger just holding on to the top 3. Dominik Lada and Ronan Hood though. Now just a couple of tenths apart from each other. We see front end damage on both cars, which will definitely slow them down a bit in the straight. We see that Maximilian Dehn has called it a day after the start. Ladler goes defensive. Actually, I think he's lost quite a bit of pace with that damage on the front left. Joel Soria kept it pretty clean at the start, currently running in P6. Has good gap to the cars in front and behind. Subea up front though, pretty much running away with it right now. See some yellows out in Dunlop. And the positions change between the Iron Dame's Porsche. Question is, did Magdev get a bit of a better exit than Radoslav Pionkic is in the slipstream right now down the straight? Which does help Pionkic defense to the inside line. Further behind we see Ron and Hood trying his best on Tony Thomas. Will be a bit far away for that. As we go side by side into turn 1. Very late break by Magdev and turns... I think he turned over there on Radoslav Pionkic.
I think he did a little bit. I think as he was turning in, I think he lost the back end as well. So it was kind of possibly the safest of the two options that could have happened.
Well, the good thing for Radoslav is that he didn't end up losing much by being an innocent bystander and someone else's mistake. So yeah. He is now clear of traffic in 7th. And the longer Tony Thomas can hold off Ron than Hood here, the better for him, definitely. Although he seemingly can't just drive away from them. And do I see that right, that Maximilian Dean actually has come out of it again? That he's driving?
Yes. Yeah, no, that's number 2. That's David Serrera. I can't see him on track. I'll see if I could locate him.
You can definitely see the delta time changing, so he must be somewhere. One in Hood, of course, cleared. Tony Thomas also did a bit of a mistake and lost more positions, but...
Yes, Max Dean is up to 18th place.
See where this will bring him later on. One in Hood now in the slipstream, towing down the front stretch. Julian Chico also lost quite... another position to Enrico Buoni. Radoslav Pionkic, solid defense here against Ron and Hood, who's having a little side race moment. And now they go side by side. But has to back out of it.
On him there.
Dominic Lala just lacking the pace here. Chico not too far away from Enrico Buoni, so can't have been too big of an issue. And I also don't see any damage on that gold and silver Porsche. Audi. Whatever. I said Porsche. Ignore that for now, but...
Rowan has got past Radoslav Pionkic now. Oh, just as a...
Oh, that's Mark Heath. That was the 5th place BMW. And that was Radoslav Pionkic who just lost it. Maximilian Dean, we see him in there. He's a lap down on these cars. So cars dropping down the order.
I think our drivers today might have spent a little too long watching the Spa 24 hours. And perhaps adopting their slightly chaotic driving style. It's called a bit crazy right now.
Potentially, yeah. Pablo Abreu in the slipstream of Radoslav Pionkic. Braking very late, Radoslav getting out of the way. But made it stop in time, so I guess he could make that work for 11th. 2 Aston Martins by Bowerman and Abreu started quite far down to what I remember. Making their way up in this race. One in Hood now has about 3 seconds to make up for Joe Soraya in 5th. See a couple more positions change. Again, Radoslav Pionkic trying to take back P11. On the outside, going into Dunlop, that's not the preferable way. Yes, Martin was braking though, and Radoslav uses the situation to get past. And they were actually losing it on the power there.
Max Dean, meanwhile, is back fighting his way through some blue flag traffic, but he's making predictably pretty good progress. He's keeping it clean, giving people space. People seem to be recognizing that he's pretty quick and letting him through.
You only lose time by doing so. Just because you're let down as well, it doesn't mean you're out of the race completely. David Sobero, though, up front, he's having a 6.7 second lead over Kimi Harpela. So he's quite comfortable for the moment, I imagine. And Enrico Bräuninger in third. I think for him this could be a pretty good result if he can keep it together, which he usually can. It all depends on Julian Chicot, who is not quite going the pace of the Aston Martin, I feel like.
No, he seemed pretty close up behind him, and then he ran wide on a couple of corners. He's maybe trying a little too hard, pushing a little bit too much on that Audi. But he does seem to catch up. Maybe getting a little bit frustrated with his inability to get past Enrico Bräuninger in a nice clean move. But there's 33 minutes left, so he's got plenty of time. He's better off waiting for a good opportunity rather than trying to make every opportunity work.
Oh, Dominic Lala just passed Ruan Den Hirsch for 6th. And they're now drag racing down the front straightaway. I'm not quite sure how that came to be. Ruan just suddenly appeared, but...
The car behind those two, ironically, is the lap down Max Dean. He is going faster than both of them, but it's going to be a tricky thing to get past if they're fighting.
Yeah, most certainly. But also for those two, I mean, this is a direct competition or a direct championship implication between the two of them. Dominic Lala going wide through 100. There's contact, one spins out. Hard to see from the camera angle we had. Doesn't seem to have done too much damage. Only the BMW of Mark Hyworth came through with him.
Yeah, he'll have heated his tyres up there. He did a good couple of spins round, so it's going to have to take it easy for a couple of turns, get him down to temperature.
And Maxine had a front row look at that, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And he'll have a nice clean run at getting past Dominic Ladler now without having to worry about a fight.
I've seen one Audi in the world that might have been David Baker, actually. It was a platinum liveried Audi. Usually he's the one driving it.
It was car 11, I believe. So I'll try to track down who it was.
That is David Baker.
Yeah, that was David Baker.
Maximilian Dehn overtaking some Aston Martins who are in the pits. Up to P15. And Dominic Lala can use the momentum of the Porsche, basically. I mean, Dominic Lala is fast himself, but Maximilian Dehn is just that bit faster, it has to be said. But if he can just follow through on other cars, use the slipstream where possible, could give him a bit of a helping hand here in this race.
Yeah, for sure. If he can stay in Max Dean's slipstream, that's a weird rhyme. It's going to drag him around the track just a little bit quicker, which will be useful for his championship hopes.
Bräuninger and Chico clearing some traffic. The 22 Aston on his way out of the pits right now. There we see it in the bottom right. We are not even 1/3 through the race so far. So, again, a pretty intensive race, I'd say. And
Yeah, it's been a bit of a wild ride. That's for sure.
Rennen Hood closing in on Mark Heworth. But we can see in the delta he's losing out on the straight. It takes a long time until that slipstream starts kicking in for him. That front end aero really not working the way it's meant to do. So maybe a bit harder to get past Mark Heworth, who seems to be doing a pretty good race himself. He had that mistake spinning in the infield of Sector 3, but apart from that, he has been running P5 up until then, is still in P7.
Yeah, he's got to try and hold off the charging Rowan de Hood again, which not easy, as we've said a few times. Rowan is one of our more aggressive drivers. That's for sure.
Dominic Ladler closing in on Joe Soria for 5th place. If he overtakes him, we would be back to 5 different cars in the top 5. I just want to mention that real quick.
I stole your thunder by saying it first. You did point it out to me.
There's one lapped Aston as well coming their way. Rennen Hood has passed Mark Heworth, who is dropping down a lot. He spun in the infield again. So really struggling with that one corner. Tony Thomas up into P9 now. And Julian Chicot now closer than ever to the back of the Shark Aston Martin. Zadibe and Macduff in the fight for P11 as well. Seems to be a fairly silent race for Piotr Zadibe again. Think he won't say no to that.
That's very true. I think sometimes a nice peaceful race is what you want.
Look at how close Chico is now getting to Enrico. Seems to be really comfortable with the car now. Running a lot closer to the apex. Oh, and Enrico Bräuninger, big drift there through Panasonic. Keeps it on the track and didn't lose too much time, but lost position. Julian Chico just waited for a moment like this.
Yeah, he just dropped too far back to be able to get any real slipstream coming down the straight as well, which is a bit of a shame for Enrico Bräuninger.
Dominic Lala lost out a bit to Joe Soria. It has, of course, Rennen Hood charging behind him. A little bit better at that BMW, but for that he's running pretty good, I guess. And it's running fantastic for David Sobrero. Also picked up some damage, potentially on the start, on the rear left. In front of him,
Yeah,
that
just
is Chesco.
a little word about fastest laps right now. Probably no surprise that David Sobrero has the fastest lap of 136.8. Kimi Harpler's running 137.7. Julian Sacco is 138.7. So they're all about as the top three are about a second apart as far as lap times are concerned. But yeah, and then everyone staying within the 39s up until Rowan de Hood. Well, Rowan de Hood is at 39. Radoslav Pionkovic is the first of the 140 drivers.
Can also see some bell scars on his car. He had his fair share of contacts. Not necessarily caused by him, but it does add up over time. But he seems to be running fairly well for it. Tony Thomas as well. Dennis Kurzer and David Baker, two of the Audis that unfortunately didn't quite make it through and are both retired. But David Baker seems to be in the pits, but has been for a very long time. So we can count these two out of the race, unfortunately. But if we learned anything today in a certain other GT3 race, is that contact is kind of part of it.
That is very true.
Dominic Ladler has been getting a lot closer. It's now about a second away from the Porsche in front. One in hood behind, still 3 seconds off. And without slipstream, I think he's a bit out in the open there, that Porsche.
It is a bit, yeah, and it's looking a bit battered. It's not exactly factory fresh.
Maximilian Dehn just made his way up into 13th spot. David Baker's out rolling again. I think 3 laps down. But at least still driving.
Yeah, Max Dean's going to have a tricky time from now on, though, because his next car up the road is 58 seconds to Piotr Zadybal. So he's got a long, long way before he makes up any more places on track. He is running 138, low 138s right now, which on a best lap timetable, it would put him third. So he's running significantly faster than everyone ahead of him, but 58 seconds is a lot of time to make up.
Yeah, he will be very dependent on other people doing mistakes.
Yeah, for sure.
Big drift there for Sobrero. Kimi Hapler 9 seconds behind, has some fighting cars in front of him. Cesco Molinero and Giampi. Again, not the best race for Cesco. Makes up the position though, gets flashed by Kimi Hapler. He's going to the inside, both of them getting off the rail, causing Cesco to lose the position again. So
Mark Herath catching up to Tony Thomas. So he's looking to maybe fight back and see if he can get some of his lost places.
he has shown that he has pretty good pace, that's for certain. So he should be able to fight back some positions, be there when opportunities come up.
Yeah, his fastest lap is pretty good. It's a very low 140. Tony Thomas is in the mid 140s. So on raw pace, he has it. Obviously, Tony Thomas is ahead after 25 minutes of racing, so he's no slouch himself.
Oh, we see that was Vladislav Pironkiewicz who spun around in the infield, dropping down to 11th. Seems to have been self-induced.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to be buckling under pressure a bit today.
It is very hot in most countries, it has to be said.
That is very true.
I think that is something to take into considerations for this. We see a lot of traffic on the front stretch as well. We also see a lot of cars still driving, which is always a good sight to have.
Yeah, and there's some fairly big variations in pace across the field. You can see we're very spread out after 25 minutes if you look at the track map. So there's a lot of traffic management to be going on right now, and you can make a lot of time up on traffic management if you get it right.
There's definitely a lot to be gained, but also to be lost. So you have to pick where you want to go for what move. And I mean, as we've seen this race as well as many other races before, if you do one mistake, as Hero of Now just dives down the inside of Tony Thomas, takes 8th place. But one split decision and your race might be over. So now all go around the outside of the Aston Martin. Dominic Ladler now 8/10 behind Joe Ferreira. And 10 seconds to run in Hood, who has lost a lot of time. Not sure if a collision was involved or if it was down to driver error. With a car damaged like his, it might have been driver error.
That's very true.
And David Baker's also in the pits again, interestingly enough. I think there's also more damage on the front right of Rondon Hood's car. I think his front right was relatively intact. Which it definitely isn't now. Dominic Ladler seems to have had a better exit out of Panasonic now. Down the front straight with Slipstream. Can nearly reach top speed in the GT3s around here actually, because the straight is this long.
Being forced to go the long way around. Joel Soria taking the defensive line into turn 1.
Braking
really wide.
And that is
just opened the door and welcomed Dominic Ladler straight through.
Oh, and goes over the grass in 100R. Loses quite a lot of time. 100 is still 8.5 seconds back, with a bit less than 20 minutes left to go. But yeah, for Dominic Ladler, most crucially, he has a gap to Rondon Hood. Remember, in the fight for the championship, these are very close together.
Yeah, and he's got a car between them, which is always a good thing to have.
And if it were to stay like this, the gap would come down by 3 points, which doesn't sound like much, but if you add it over the next 3 races in the season. Next up, we will go to Spa-Francorchamps in 2 weeks. That can add up still. Fight for P9 is also still ongoing. Tony Thomas holding off the 2 Iron Dames, which have been running together quite a lot in this race. McDeff and Pironkiewicz.
Not in the same team, but they might as well be at the minute, I think. They seem to be cooperating fairly well. Oh, I spoke too soon.
I mean, a bit of a mistake just by McDeff. And behind them, that's Subaru. You can see how wide he takes the entry line into Panasonic to get as early as possible on the throttle for the straight, taking a lot of momentum. The Mercedes, of course, a momentum-driven car. With the Porsche and Audi, would be much more aggressive in your entry and exit lines. But he also now has to figure out a way to get past these 3 cars.
Yeah, they're pretty tightly bunched together and fighting for position, so they're not going to want to get off the racing line very much, that's for sure. Tony Thomas just extended a bit of a gap in front of the 2 Iron Dames Porsches, so he's got a little bit more breathing room maybe.
Meanwhile, Pironkiewicz extended the track limits a bit. You can do that a few times, but you shouldn't do it too often, but leaves enough space for Subaru to go through on the inside. Of because Verslav is one of the best sportsmen we have on RENNSPORT, always a very fair driver. But yeah, not the most comfortable position to be in a pack like this. Has to find his way past McDev.
Handled that one pretty sweetly. Now, see if MacDev can use the extra slipstream maybe to try and close up the gap to Tony Thomas.
She had so much momentum out of the turn because Tony Thomas made a bit of a mess out of that exit. But maybe Tony, if he just clings on to the AMG now, can gain a bit of a gap to the two Porsche. And as long as he can get out of slipstream range for MacDev, could yield a pretty good gap.
Yeah, he had a good amount of side slip from David Sobrero there. And then tucked into the full slipstream when he had it available. Braked a little bit early, but you never want to outbrake the leader of a race. That's it's always one of my big fears whenever I get lapped.
And I mean, if you think about how Tony Thomas ended up in P3 in the championship, it is precisely because he kept it out of trouble, kept his car clean. And if we take a look, or just a quick rundown on how the championship would change, he would slip down to 4th, just ever so slightly, because Julian Chicot was currently running in 3rd and thereby getting a lot of points. 26 right now. He would jump him in the standings for 3rd, but only by 3 points. Gap between Dominic Lalla and Soraya has up to about 2.3 seconds, so he has a bit of breathing room there. Remember, one of the cars involved in the big collision at the start with Ronan Hood, Maximilian Dehn and a couple of other drivers, which really threw this race into a different direction. Side by side down the straight between the two Iron Domes Porsche we go again. MacDev again braking later. Radoslav Pironkiewicz with the up and under. And keeps actually 10th place, MacDev.
We've had some classic up and under moves this race.
Yes. And these two certainly have a lot of fun with each other. Whether that is metaphorically or literally, we will see after the race and the discussions in the Discord. So if you don't want to miss it, make sure to join the Discord, !Discord, or in the description of the stream. But they most certainly can't really break traction. Oh, but...
Bit outbrakes himself a little bit there. He gave Tony Thomas a bit of a boop on the back, but didn't seem to cause him too much trouble.
Don't even see a big scratch on the paint. So the contact wasn't too... Oh, that was Marquez again losing it into... this time it was a bit later in the Motordrome, but... Yeah, falls down to 11th. That is the 4-car of Kimi Hapler, putting a lap on the BMW. Actually, we'll soon have the three Iron Names cars in this race just together.
You could go for a photo finish.
10 minutes left on the clock. Oh, Radoslav Pironkiewicz braking very late, probably didn't anticipate the speed he had when being towed down the front stretch. But you really gain up to 10 kph if you have the perfect slipstream, including the bit of damage he has. One and Hurt still 10 seconds back from the 6th place Porsche, Joel Soria. Two of the Aston Martins coming into the pits fairly slowly. They seem to struggle a lot with some front-end damage. Tony Thomas slipped back behind McDev. He's not quite done fighting yet, though. Also, Enrico Bräuniger has dropped down significantly from Julian Chico. Not a good exit here for Tony Thomas. Car from the German, slight damage on the door on the rear right, but seems to be overall in quite good shape. Tony Thomas now under pressure from Radoslav Pironkiewicz. And Kimi Hapler coming closer and closer. Tony Thomas running right through Coca-Cola. And losing yet another position to an Iron Names Porsche. Now has the next one, but that one is not for position. And the speed Kimi Hapler carried through 100R was insane there.
That was really quick.
Now super tricky situation for the Swede again. Having to clear 4 cars of traffic in half a lap. Getting past Radoslav Pironkiewicz. The Aston Martin is another lap down, so don't be confused by that. And clears the last of the lapped cars. And Tony Thomas also getting under pressure from Mark Hewitt again. Slipstream down the front stretch. The damage on Mark's car is actually pretty similar to Dominic Ladler's. Brakes a lot earlier for turn 1. And with 7 minutes left on the clock, it's a 17-second advantage for David Sobrero. Currently also not much traffic in front of him. Kimi Hapler still having to clear 2 cars, the 19 and the 22. And Maximilian Dehn is also in the pits again. He dropped no position so far. But with all this traffic, it's still a very high pressure phase, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not been an easy race for anybody. I think there's been so much traffic and a bit of chaos for sure, and it's made things pretty tricky for the guys up front, even with the fairly big gaps. There's still a lot to do, a lot to think about as they're trying to make their way without losing time, which, like I said, the gaps are quite large at the front, so they don't have to worry too much about losing time, but it's still something that definitely weighs on your head for sure when you're racing.
Mark Hero still putting on a lot of pressure onto the Audi now on the inside of Dunlop. And a very good move there from the BMW driver to get into the top 10.
It was a very clean overtake. It's not a move you'd expect to have been that kind of clean, to be honest. But he just seemed to slide his way down pretty easily.
He set it up for quite some time, so definitely took his time. I wonder with Maximilian Dehn, depending on the damage he got in that opening incident, whether he still has some remaining damage of that slowing him down, or if he just went for some new tires.
Maybe, yeah.
And Dominic Lada dropped down to 6th again behind Sorera. Seen there was an incident.
I saw him spinning off then.
Now behind the 19 Aston Martin, that's a lapped car. That is Giacomo Vasquez. But 3.7 seconds back from Sorero, and with not even 4 minutes left on the clock, I don't think he will be able to catch that up. He still has 14 seconds to run in hood, which is at least a bit of salvation in this. Yeah, unlucky this late into the race. Hewitt now closing in on the two Iron Names Porsche. McDev running very wide in Dunlop, causing a bit of trouble for Václav Pionka, which has to back down and now has to watch for Hewitt to not slip through as well.
Yeah, Dominic Ladler got turned around by one of the back markers there as he was working his way through under blue flags. Unfortunate incident for sure.
As long as he didn't take any long-term damage, it should not influence it too much at least. McDev trying to break the slipstream there a bit, but both Hewitt and Pionka just following him. Lots of speed going into turn 1, not braking too late. Pionka does brake very late though, and I think he will lose the position to Hewitt here, and he does. So a very late surge for the BMW.
Yeah, I think Pionkovic has made a few late breaks into turn 1 there that never seem to kind of come out on top for him. He seems to not having a lot of luck with Fuji T1 today.
Question is, where's Subaru on track? He is coming out of the final corner. We should have one final lap, which is maybe 2 or 3 more opportunities for Mark Hewitt to also take P8 back from McDev. It's getting very loose, and Pionka is hot on his heels. And Tony Thomas is also just waiting for his time to strike there in the Dazzle liveried Audi. Oh, Pionka spins and into the wall. Loses position to Tony Thomas. Is now stuck.
Oh, and he's going to have to... Yeah, he's a bit of a terrible place to try and rejoin, get back on track there. So it took him quite a long time.
So that would pretty much put him in P11 for the results. Mark Hewitt though, 6/10 to McDev, and he seems to be very strong in the second sector. But David Subaru on his final lap. We don't know what would have happened if there wasn't that opening collision with Maximilian Dehn and Ron Den Hut, and also involving some others like Dominic Ladler. We are not sure what quite happened there. We'll have to look at it after the race. I'm sure there will be some discussions in the Discord. But Subaru never looked back, and he will come out of Panasonic to take, I think, his first win in RCL.
I think so, yeah.
But a lights to flex performance for the Beast of the Purple.
Hopefully, it's not his only appearance for us on the RCL.
I don't think it will be. I at least hope so. It seems like MacDev will be able to hold off Mark Heroth here for the final few turns. Julian Chico just behind them. And what a race it has been for Julian Chico as well. I mean, he had a mistake of his own, but other than that, he just fought it through. And he actually got second in the end because Kimi Harpler was involved in an incident as well. Running Hood finishing in 7th.
It was definitely a great race for Julian Chico. I'm sure he'll be well pleased with that result.
Kimi Harpler completing the podium. Enrico Voininger in 4th, this time not with a very lonely race. It has to be said as well.
No, he got a bit of excitement this time, which is good because he does tend to have lonely races.
Just finishing some results here to give you the updated standings. Couple more drivers who couldn't complete this race in the end, but in total we have only 4 people not finishing, meaning 18 finishers, which is not too bad, I'd say, for a track like this and for a race like this. So, what do you think? How would you put this race into words?
That's a tricky one. I think it was a great race for David Sobrero. For sure, he definitely showed off his pace from the qualifying on. Probably don't want to give someone in an esports team a clean race. I think is what people learned from that one. The rest of it was interesting. There was a lot of action going on. It was a bit messy in places, but it led to some great fights. So, yeah, a wild ride, I think, would probably be the easiest way to describe this race.
Just finishing up the results here. So you should have the updated standings in just a second. But yeah, I would pretty much agree with it. I'm very curious to see what happened in that opening incident. It looked very weird from our angle. But yeah, it is... I'm not sure how to put it really. That's the kind of thing.
Yeah, I see. I know what you mean. It was. There was some chaotic moments. There was some brilliant moments.
So, should have the standings just in a second. And I mean, championship-wise, it has been very chaotic. I think it has thrown up the standings quite significantly. Both Ron and Dominic being caught out in that opening incident, but also further down the field, Dennis Kurzer not being able to finish the race, Tony Thomas later on dropping a bit more, and Chico having that great run through P2 in the end.
Yeah.
But there we go. There we have our current standings. Of course, we will have to add Catherine Daniels as well. There we go. 110 to 90 going into round 5 next week, which will be, not next week, in 2 weeks, which will be at Spa. So, yeah, Spa, very chaotic racetrack as well. And it will be very interesting.
Spa's never chaotic in real life, how dare you?
How dare I don't know. But, yeah, what do you think? How would you go into the penultimate round of the season with those standings? You have a very tight mid-pack.
We do have a very tight mid-pack. Piotr Zadybal and Rico Breininger both on the same points. Chestu Manera, Radoslav Pionkovic both on the same points. I mean, David Severa and Sven Gill all have got 1 point between them, but only one of them raced today, and I think Sven's only done one race himself, hasn't he?
Yeah, indeed. So those two.
But yeah, David Baker as well, having a good showing in the championship so far, in 8th place. Ali Zahir, Dennis Kurtzer. Obviously, Ali couldn't be here today, but they're on the same points, and there's only 4 points ahead to Kimi Harpler. So that's a good trio that are fairly close together in points there. Tony Thomas, Julian Chacot, Dominic Ladler, they're all... Well, Dominic Ladler's a bit further ahead. But it's not a done deal for Rowan de Hoop just yet. He's got 20 points lead, but anything can happen. We'll find out at Spa, I suppose, for the next bit.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. As said, next time we will go to Spa-Francorchamps, and then it's time for the community vote, which will take place a bit sooner than last season. So the community vote might just be a bit of a wild
card. Atlanta round.
Who knows? I mean, people really seem to like that. But if we learned anything from the community votes, even though they both were voted Atlanta, but they can throw people, of course, as well. It's not necessarily always everybody's favorite track. So, yeah, see you in Spa-Francorchamps in 2 weeks. Or see you next week for the start of the next RNL season. We start off with the BMW. No, that is wrong. I am very well prepared here, trust me with that. There we go, we start off
being a very professional cast today.
Indeed. With the GT3X. I mean, it has been a topic throughout, hasn't it? We start off with the GT3X. And on Sunday there will be an RCE. You will see the trailer for it in just a second. So, have a great evening. See you next time, and goodbye.
Goodbye.